Hasn't?
Now I started.
Are you both okay with being recorded?
Yeah, I'm okay with being recorded. Is everybody ready? Yeah.
Give Lawrence a second, guys.
Alright. Yep. The role of the ballot is to vote for the debater who best methodologically resists oppression, forcing debaters to justify their repression, destroys accessibility. People can participate in activity that continually marginalizes them. 17. Racism in debates, context-based institutions, students make abstract statistics, conversations, the reality of black bears, forced to deal with every day. Judge with that ballot, have been by student being lynch norms, have debaters who intellectual journalists can make up rules with accused debaters to escape conversations. The only source strategy is to engage in discussion with students, spew hateful things, use here to plan rally. Students should not justify why oppression is bad. Debate's not a game, but learning environment with liberatory potential. Morality, but security engagement, not deal perspective instead of imposing abstract system. One, the end effect can be accomplished in non-deal system if we use ideal, a picture, ideal theory would take it, an ideal distribution of air particles. Well, a plane will fly a certain way, but if I cut the wings of Velcro and knock off its rudder, to try and fly the plane would be like an ideal environment would fail. Two, we need to advance little by little, treat from world markets, something to know the final goal of an ethical system without a way to get there. It just doesn't help to know where the top of the mountain is without a practical bringing it together. Three, try to determine an ethical society from a privileged position is impossible since it will only recreate where those powers want it to be. Also 5, subordinate groups always have a skeptical ideal theory operating in these subjects to the natural, starting point of actual condemnation, so a non-whitency, discrepancy, American ideals, freedom and independence are not equally extended in ideal structures, obscure the realization of the ideal 4, practice is the only possible when we can critically examine existing ethical norms. Vegas 6, moral issues arise when establishing ethical norms give a non-Christian role. For those who feel at home, ethical positions don't present a problem. For those who are strange from the ethical norms, even critical, ethical norms can be merely imposed upon individual morality, constitute critical examination of the social conditions that give rise to prescriptive norms. 5, absent from real consequences makes it impossible to find solutions to oppression. 14, discussion to see sociological realities, constructivity, theory, form, style, and LD is conceptual documents, actual problems, and way of frame problems, theoretically for any empirical social phenomenon, and ideal is actually for representation of non-ideal theory and essence, consequential systems. They have to take a proactive stance to rectify justice now, not following idealized rules as some already equal playing field, but standards of existing oppression plan. Planted to the United States Supreme Court audit Grand Let's see right to make comments about decisions regarding confidential consent and treatment for intimate partner violence, BDC-08. State should remove restricted state parental involvement for minors. Successive minors are legally able to consent service and for addressing abuse such as medical care. Effective policies to address youth dating, sexual violence, protected and confidentiality. In the status quo, parents control youth mental rights to non-confidentiality and autonomous decisions. BTC-07. Confidential participation in the elements concerned teens codes provide the men who are murderers ultimately law enforcement reporting to deter teen from accessing available services. Confidentiality is key part of autonomous decision making. IPPF 12. Autonomous decision making includes the right confidentiality. Confidentiality is essential to access to care. Advantage 1 is part of balance. Parents that allows masking and increase in part of violence. Abuse needs often can through their parents and nonsense works by their child in time of 18 14. Charles frightening these siblings to go where boyfriend is abusive or motherhood or stopping so dramatic. Teens are practicing dating, abuse, need a comfort or shelter. A parent may not be supportive of their child leaving the relationship because the abuse is happening, or they ostracize the young person for the relationship. 20% of children experience homelessness, subject for conflict, sexual orientation. The young person may not feel safe talking about their parent because the underlying cultural norms because of strange fear of their parents is attacked with the abuser. When the parent is not accessible, the patient is a parent is not available for consent. This is a medical issue. FTD causes major harms to health. Mark 12. Enemy part of violence can be devastating to teens because it has negative 1 3 effects more likely to use alcohol, tobacco, become pregnant, to make suicide. Social injustice is the root cause of mass scale violence and prime society for external violence. Never use us for. Attention to little violence every day. Life shifts our attention to inequalities, risk, less policies that have themselves to miscognizing prototypical practices, enacted as normative behavior. We need hypervigilant to everyday acts of violence and render genocidal acts possible, especially social exclusion, normalized violence, and social formations. Violence is encompassing control processes, self collective survival, mass part of violence is continuum. Advantage 2 is queer youth. Queer youth experience disproportionate rates of intimate part of violence, which is magnified due to social segmentation with 15. Sexual minority youth often experience more than heterosexual peers, and the largest extent the LGBT youth report higher prevalence of physical abuse, higher rates of discrimination due to stigma associated with a sexual minority, increasing risk of PV. Seeking help means forced outing to cause a cycle of violence. Day 14. Study shows that depression, family maltreatment, lack of peer social acceptance are persistent at high levels of LGBT youth because of discriminatory parents upon exposure of their sexual orientation. Half LGBT experience a negative reaction from parents when they reveal their sexual orientation, being kicked out of the home and or assaulted. Solvency. Confidentiality is key. Parents who lack confidentiality means teens won't reach out. BTC-08. Experiencing dating violence statistics, the assumption the info will remain confidential. Only 33% of teens experience violence report their abuse. 86% only tell a friend. Consider their parental involvement. Maintaining confidentiality is key to getting vital trust. Teens experiencing violence. Unwanted disclosure of their parental information may discourage seeking care. Prioritized prosecution and retribution makes survivors relive their abuse and discriminatory. Blue 14. To willful survivors, highlighting the unique marginalized position of survivors, gendered cultural skips implicate survivors in victimization that fail to recognize the traumatic nature of providing testimony about experiences of sexual violence. Reforms rely on conceptualization of retribution and punishment. Our call for rights is the demand on the state, not a legal recognition that gives marginalized groups the power to change society. Park away. We need rights that utilize power to the presumed victim and understanding human rights involving rights have been achieved. These social groups can this is nothing fixed without rights. Women have joined together, contesting gender violence, focusing on the issues that affect them differently. This is evidence against unitary liberal rights, liberal narrative of our rights, right? An ongoing political struggle. Resistance was framed as human rights have the power to change historical combinations of power relations. Review. One F gets RBIs. A only negative routine which the who's out on. So I need the RBI to compensate. B strategic allocation. RBIs make theory 2 ways to resolve 1 error times 2 strategic 2 to make the undercover the theory of substance 2. High theory without a concrete solution. Doom critique failure by abstract with the details necessary for a workable alternative. Brian 12. When given given the existing conditions RBI youth at least activities making real difference as a break them together as a worse sort of fast actions. Good be hearing how critics and now social formations are proposing realistic alternatives. Phase 1 retroactivity. Phase 2 phase 3 revolution and complete social transformation. Often critiques articulate phase 1 are right. 3 using policy making is heuristic is key to understanding powers and I-14. Resistance to government and not limited to rejection continues to within government. Questions don't simplify complex political rationalities. Government is heuristic. Invest careful differentiations rather than over academizations of power. Evidence engagement will not outweigh the revolution attempt to twist power by playing whatever cards are available. Yeah.
Okay. Is it cool if I said? What type of treatment are you providing for the people that
face intimate partner violence?
Yes.
So you can go to the hospital, you gain counseling, you gain like actual medical procedures. Like if your significant other is beating you up and like cutting you and bruising you, obviously you need medical resources.
So
right? You need to be cured.
What do you cure is the word you want to use there?
Well, I'm saying you need to have your wounds healed.
Okay. So do you defend the implementation of a policy?
I do.
Okay. So does the U.S. implement that policy?
It does. It's the United States Supreme Court.
Who in the Supreme Court does it? Oh, okay. So let's talk about solvency. How does granting the right keep abusive boyfriends or girlfriends or partners from beating up their significant others?
What do you mean?
Right, because you describe these harms as there is abuse. Now, how does that solve for that abuse?
So the hand of the law doesn't like intervene as somebody is about to hit somebody else.
So this just solves for the effect of the abuse, not the actual abuse. So you don't solve the root cause.
That's the Shepard-Hughes evidence that like attention to the rectifying of this abuse is what stops the root of mass-scale violence.
Shepard-Hughes also says that the way that once we address that, we must implement a policy. A policy does not address the actual root cause. So I'm asking, do you solve the root cause?
In the world in which you do the affirmative, the policy would be implemented. The attention paid to these ideas of like abuse and partner violence is what creates these laws in the first place, right? It's extra topical for me to say that like, oh, we destroy all intimate partner violence, right? I'm saying we give kids the sanctuary that they need. They are suffering right now in the status quo. We give them a sanctuary for the violence that they suffer.
How many kids suffer from this?
That is not relevant.
I just want to ask, humor me. How many kids are suffering from this? I want to know.
A lot of kids.
Also, what do you define as an adolescent? Under 18?
Yes, under 18. Like somebody who doesn't have legal recourse for any instance.
Okay.
Right? If you're 18, you have legal recourse.
Do you read any evidence saying that adolescents can't escape from partner violence?
What do you mean?
Because a lot of partner violence cases are talking about how like your husband beats you so you can't leave, but if these are adolescents...
Well, these are husbands, so
husbands, okay.
It's more difficult to escape from your husband if you're like...
Wait, so kids under 18 are getting married and you solve for that? I'm confused.
Wait, what? Kids under 18 are not getting married. What are you talking about?
I'm like confused as to what your arguments are saying, because your evidence is talking about adult relationships, and then this isn't one.
My evidence is not talking about...
Sorry, I think I can clarify this problem for myself. You extend the right to everybody, not just adolescents.
Everybody already has everybody over 18 already has this right, Louise. I'm extending it to adolescents because it's a right that everybody needs.
Alright, that's fine.
It's the resolution.
You don't have to laugh at me, that's fine.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, so let's go to the underview stuff. So, why do you abs get RBIs? What's the first A point?
Okay, so the A point is that only the neg can read T, right? The AF has the T burden, so your T precludes all of the affirmative offense. I need the RBI to compensate for the fact that there's no avenue for me to read like a preclusive argument in T. The B sub point is a strategic allocation, right? RBIs make theory a two-way street because there's a huge 1AR time skew when you read
also,
like 7 minutes
5 minutes of prep, right?
Yeah.
So
there's a huge time
I'm okay
skew
with
when
that
you
question.
read 7
So
minutes.
why does Brian say you get an RBI?
Brian doesn't say I get an RBI.
Okay, sorry, it was under that part.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So the Brian card, the Sonati card, so I have nothing to do with RBIs.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
I was And these are just like preempts like abstract, postmodernism, olds, and stuff like that, right?
Well, I mean, presumably, but that's kind of simplifying words. I go through the cards.
What?
I can explain the cards.
No, that's fine. have any other theory preempts?
No. Well, I mean, okay, define theory preempts. I have, so the Smith card
Any
would, like,
preempts that say that can run certain types of arguments.
okay, so the Smith card would say that it's really bad to read theory against a position like this, because it's an abstraction from beliefs we should actually be, like, things we should actually be talking about. Oppression.
Okay.
That's like the rule of thumb, right? If it's rule of thumb.
What does the plan do effectually?
The plan allows adolescents to get treatment for any sort of intimate partner abuse. It means they get any sort of therapy treatment they need. They get the literal treatment to heal their wounds after they've been cut and bruised. It just gives them a safe place for not having to go back to their family, which abuses them over these things, and they're already being abused.
Yeah, good idea.
For the record, it confers confidentiality for these procedures.
Yeah. Oh, 147. Just found the flash drive. It's gonna be 2 off case. It's called Speech NC, 2 p.m. It's really cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Seriously. It's going to be so much you can actually just burn piles of money into the place. I almost watched one series.
Okay. Are you ready?
Yeah.
First off is the counterplan. Counter 1, the pathological perspective. In normal times, there is very little risk of repression. However, during certain stressful times called pathological periods like the Red Scare or the War on Terror, when the threat of repression increases dramatically. During those periods, the Constitution of best check on oppression. We should treat the Constitution during normal times in a way that maximizes its ability to survive during pathological crises by strengthening core stable rights. This is called the pathological perspective. Blasey 85. Constitutions are designed to control future political events, yet the future is unknowable. How the Constitution is supposed to operate upon this. The courts ought to adopt a pathological perspective. The overriding objective of all time should be able to put the perspective to the maximum service of all intolerance is most prevalent when governments are most likely to cycle to send the pathological perspective out to inform the way that those thoughts are interpreted. Certain segments of time, especially significant preservation of basic liberties, because the most serious threats to those liberties tend to be concentrated in abnormal periods, and this is especially relevant to the AC because he specified that the courts do it. And part 2 is the links. Pathological repression calls for the rejection of the affirmative. There are 2 links. First, rights expansion. Resolution expands the scope of rights to include adolescents. Constantly expanding the notion of rights is called rights talks. It's undermines social discourse necessary for the foundation of liberty. Glendon 92. The proportion of political discourse become increasingly difficult even to define critical questions, let alone debate and result in rights talk. Corrosive of the social foundation which individual freedom and security ultimately rests American liberties undergoing a crisis at the very heart of American experiment in self-government. General exchange of ideas become to a standard. Rights talk is a contributing factor to this order. This course about rights has become the principal language that we use in public settings to discuss questions about both right and wrong, but it proves inadequate, at least to stand of American rights talk is prodigality in bestowing the rights labels really constricts opportunities for sort of ongoing dialogue on which liberty ultimately depends. A rapidly expanding catalog of rights, risk trivialization, coordinated violence, a tendency to frame nearly every social controversy in terms of rights. It beats compromise says new rights are opposed to the catalog of individual rights to expand more without much consideration. Saturated rights, political language can no longer perform such public discussion for the right order of your lives together. And adolescent rights expand rights talk. Archer 2002. Others are skeptical, believing that given the nature both of rights and children is wrong to think of children as right holders. One background word against which skepticism may be sending currently off express concept proliferation of rights is so list on permissibly ascribing to a first list of right holders been extensively like, and second, many more demands to express as right claims. You give away too many rights that may cease to have value and significance they once had. He concedes that he extends a right. And second, medical autonomy, expanding notion of rights to include the consent for health care decisions reinforces rights stock. This also links into his advocacy. Hunter 10. The ideal patient autonomy retains its power to shape norms. Consent has become ingrained in rights stock for patients. The new topics of which courts have applied to inform consent principles of provider experience and part 3's implications. Rights stock rhetoric that expands the list of civil rights is dangerous if it trivializes rights, which makes it harder to defend fundamental rights and undermines policymaking by precluding compromises. Turns the AC because it undermines the rights that they tend to protect, the foundation which those rights are built upon. Melnick, 2014. Civil rights is coming to include almost any issue that touches about the well-being of groups. Two problems: civil rights inflation. The first establishes distinction between the rights of the fundamental policy preferences. Civil rights inflation leads to civil rights trivialization, can also lead to dangerous disregard for rights as they are fundamental. The second problem is that defining something as a civil rights issue often inhibits prudent policymaking. We ignore questions that effectiveness and trade-offs and unintended consequences of absolute civil rights acts and invites sound vision. Rights acts also tends to centralize decision-making, weakening those with practical experience. And part 4. The alternative counterplan is that adolescents ought to be able to make medical choices regarding confidential and treatment for intimate partner violence. Just when rights acts would protect people excluded from current society would spill over to legal and political rhetoric. Whitney, 1992. Clinton has written about discourse, but transformed the discourse of especially judges, legislators, politicians to reduce their rights stock in favor of discourse, which is more complex and open, inclusion above the powerless in the social universe, seeing the interconnectedness of one issue with many others, and more civilized approach to law. Now, the argument is saying the advocacy is that we do the plan, we don't use the word right, and we don't use it as the legal process of using it as a right. Part 5, roll the ballot. The judge should invalidate the rhetoric in the round. Discourse is key. Rights talking in the academic sense. Keep transform how you perform rights rhetoric in politics and law. White, 92. Rights occurs not only in the law but in political debate, more generally in dating, school life, and throughout our society. It's a general feature of our culture. Glenn is thus asking us not to think only about the way that we talk in the law, but how the way that we talk in our society more generally, and about the relation between those two fields of discourse. And discourse is key. Rights talk in public discussion affects all citizens. It creates a civic advocacy that prevents us from solving society's most difficult problems and threatens our democracy. Glenn, 92. Rights talk is turning political discourse imperative itself, challenging the very notion of politics can be conducted through recent discussion language with its powerfully shining effects on thought and certainty implied in the dilemma or prospects of semantic political language where we inform and determine our success and failure in perceiving developing the democratic field. Like critique of rights talk must address some difficult questions. Our anemic political discourse, the citizen information, recent arguments that need to hear in order to make intelligent choices to respond and assess costs and benefits of proposed policy. The result is generalized frustration of politics. Now, to preempt the theory arguments, part 3. Rational which picks are legitimate. One, they are predictable. The affirmative notes that they have to defend the worst in the resolution. The resolution is simultaneous. We have to be for the answer is crucial for predictability. And the affirmative gives inherent access to offense. They know they have to prove rights is good. And 2, they're limited. There are only 13 words in the resolution, so it's not reasonable for them to have to defend 2 of them. There is inherent limited number of resolutional word picks I can run. And 3, they force topic education. Affirmative has to research and defend a specific word in the resolution, not just the topic area. The framers choose specific words for specific reasons. Research is key to finding out why. Topic education is key to debate because it's the best way to keep debaters interested. And 4, they are key to negative ground. They force the affirmative to defend the resolution. If the negative cannot get ground off words in the resolution, they can never predict negative arguments. Negative ground is key to fairness since without access to equal arguments, negatives will never participate because they cannot win. And 5, net benefits of solving advocacy and check abuse. I have to find a very specific argument, and author advocates a certain term over another, and that's the White and Glendon stuff. And there are very limited number of those. And if I can find such literature, I should be rewarded for the in-depth research that went into the position. Skip the T stuff. Now let's go on to the AC. First, I saw for all of the plan because I'm saying that we should do the plan, but we shouldn't use the words rights. And then the NC is a form of a net benefit of why you would prefer the argument. Now, all the preempts that he makes are going to make arguments as to why critique is not resolution. But the fact is that I don't run this exactly as a critique alternative, but rather as a counter plan, a way that we should oppose. So those arguments are irrelevant. So the BT evidence and the IPPF evidence aren't going to be applicable to this case. And I still defend confidentiality. I'm simply saying that we should put in a right because it creates our discourse as anemic and prevents solvency. That's the case certain arguments that are right on. Aiken evidence is that on all of his advantages I saw for all of those arguments, including the social injustice arguments. So those goes away. And on the Magnus evidence, says that we could have to critically examine ethical norms, but I'm saying that we should, that's a reason why this argument flows negative, because the argument is saying that we should examine critical norms about how we speak, so that argument would follow our way, and on the Curry evidence, his abstractions of the round are bad for solutions, but now he's going to make arguments the same why I'm distracted from the AC, but I'm not acknowledging that the AC is a bad idea. In fact, I'm saying that it is a good idea, except for the part that says right, so I'm not distracting from actual concrete issues. You can classify these to all the preempts that he made in the AC about how resolutional critiques are bad or alternatives are bad, so I'm still passing the plan, so that doesn't make any sense. Now, he's going to read arguments saying why restrictions are key, but all of his offense as to why his solvency offense is only talking about why we have to defend confidentiality and privacy, not about why it has to be a right to confidentiality or privacy. And it's more important because the Constitution talks about the right to privacy, but that argument assumes that we defend rights that are fundamental. So that means that it's still possible for us to advocate for all of this stuff and have solvency without that. Now on the app stuff, on the theory preempts, first one that says that he gets RBI, but this is specific to T. So if he's gonna read war pigs bad or stuff like that, then the person will look to the preempts. And also this argument is not applicable. And also he doesn't get so those arguments go away. And the Bryan evidence and the evidence below it are just discussions about why high theory is bad, but I'm not trying to go to a higher ethical framework here. The AC preempts are all about critique alternatives like that nomad or they lose or stuff like that. This is actually more contextual, so those arguments go away. And also there aren't any tricks on the AC. And I solve for all the impacts. Yeah. Sorry, not reading the T stuff. Other cross-X.
What exactly does the counterplan do?
We do the F plan, we don't call it a right.
We don't call it a right. Okay, so you call it what?
We say that they get the choice to get these treatments.
Wait, they get the choice, so how do you actually implement legislation without calling it a right? The legal precedent is that it's a right, not a choice.
Right. My argument is saying that we ought to make it able for them to get these choices.
I'm saying, where's your solvency for the fact that you can call it a choice?
That comes from the argument saying that rights is net worse than calling it a choice.
My argument is
the argument comes from the fact that my framework evidence talks about how rights expansion.
Where in the card does it say you can literally make policy?
The pathological perspective.
Choice,
the pathological perspective talks about how courts ought to adopt it. The pathological perspective will reject it.
Can you read that out of the card?
Yes.
Where? Read it.
Courts ought to adopt what might be termed the pathological perspective. That is, the overriding objective of all time should be equipped to the First Amendment to do maximum service.
Okay, where does it say that it uses the word choice, not rights? Like that, the pathological perspective seems to be an outlook on rights, not literally the word choice.
Yeah, so we don't use the word rights. I don't understand why this is hard to understand.
Why does the pathological perspective necessitate that you use the word choice and not rights? It says we should take an outlook upon this. That
the argument is saying that choice is net better. The pathological perspective doesn't need to speak to that. I'm simply saying we don't use the word rights.
Right.
Why would it? Would be my question.
My question is, where in your case does it first say that the use of the word rights is what is problematic?
Okay, that comes from the link evidence.
Read that out of the evidence.
Okay. The abomination of political discourse became increasingly difficult even to define questions that are above resolve them. Rights talk corrodes the foundation on which individual freedom and security ultimately rest. American liberty is undergoing a crisis. Blah blah. Do you want to keep me to?
Okay, so that evidence says that
and
increase
that's not the only
of
evidence.
rights. Oh, hold on. That evidence says that increase of rights is a bad thing. I want to know where the use of the word rights is bad.
That also comes from the discourse stuff. I was going to get to it.
Okay.
Rights talk is when you use rights. You use the verb, like you use the discourse of rights by expanding rights through the advocacy text and through the resolution. You are endorsing that. You are making a new right for people to have this.
For this rights, so it says adolescent rights expand rights talk, but where does it say that the word rights is what expands the rights talk?
That's you. What? You're literally asking me. The card says rights talk is bad. You use a right. Therefore, that is rights talk.
Rights talk isn't just using the word rights.
Yes, that is the discourse stuff. That is the
rights.
discourse stuff that I read. That is white in the part 5 and white in the part 4.
Okay.
They talk about discourse. And Glendon also talks about it.
What is the terminal impact of rights talk?
The fact is that it turns case because rights talk undermines the discourse of rights. So that means that people don't value rights as much. So in this case, they wouldn't value the plan as much.
So if you say the word rights, people don't value
So
rights.
the argument is saying that since you make everything a right, then nothing becomes a right. It's that type of argument. It's saying that your implementation
make rights.
No, the
What if
argument
we
is
make everything a choice? Then doesn't everything become a choice? Like
no, because we should have senses of rights, but then the choices that we make in legislators should be based on those rights. I am saying that privacy and confidentiality are protected by the Constitution. We should protect that. The way that we protect it is by saying it, that's a right, and then choices, right? Policy preferences versus rights.
Why do we look to the Constitution?
Because you're using the courts in the U.S., and I would say that's the supreme law. That is literally the supreme law of the land. Jeez, I'm getting way too sick to do this anymore.
Also, if you're gonna flash, can you please flash me? I'm sorry, if you're gonna be something. Okay. Did I seriously just fill my K on your half? Okay. 1 minute left.
52 seconds.
52.
I'm not going to shortchange you.
Was that an issue? Was that an issue for you? What's your order?
The order is going to be pick AC.
Where are you starting on the?
So this can be pick top down. So overview to the pick proper AC.
Cool. And not really in.
Be good.
Yeah.
Overview to the pick, he literally doesn't understand his own arguments. The rights talk is not simply saying that the discourse of the use of the word right is a bad thing. It is a terribly morally reprehensive argument. This says that more rights trivialize the amount of rights people have. He's saying that we should not give kids more rights because that means it trivializes the ability of their rights to matter. This is specifically contextualized in the Archer card where he says people don't believe that children ought to have rights or they're capable of getting rights. So go down, top down. So start at the top evidence, see link in there. So first, the Supreme Court defending something is not a reason why we should necessarily use the Supreme Court defended many bad policies in the past, but saying the Supreme Court is the arbiter of what we should defend is terrible because they defended slavery as well. Second, there is no solvency. He can't prove that using the word choices actually solves for any of the harms in the affirmative because policy is not made that way. Policy is made using the word rights, not choices. For example, you wouldn't say that all laws simply become agreements now. You can't make a law and simply call it an agreement. It's not actually possible to be implemented as a policy. Go to the Glendon card. He says that rights talks increases rights and trivializes them. Once again, this is not actually. This only talks about the value that rights have. That if we make we just a ton of rights, that means that rights will lose their value because everybody has a right to everything. I know this argument make no sense, but it's pretty bad because it says that we can't have any rights or else rights become inaccessible to everyone. Right? So this is really clear. This has rights talk does not mean that talking about rights is a bad thing. It means instituting a ton of rights trivializes the idea of having a right in the first place, which is a terrible argument. But it's not what he defends anyway. He just misinterprets the argument. Go down to the Melnick card. Go down the alt. Perm do the aff, perm do the aff, only I provide solvency, perm do the aff, and then the counterplan, only I provide solvency for the reason why rights would act, why passing legislation using the word rights would actually work. The white card is not going to be enough to actually show that passing this legislation using the word choices is actually enough to get the legislation passed in the first place. If you agree that the affirmative can pass the policy using the word rights, it means there's no solvency for you can pass a policy using the word choices. The white card then would simply point to the fact that you can pass the IPV policies using the word choices. This is really important. He has no solvency to the fact that doing the AF using the word choices means the policy will pass. The AF has solvency, that is the BTC evidence that says doing the AF using the word rights allows the policy to pass. You vote affirmative because at least I have some sort of solvency that says that using the word rights gets the policy passed in the first place, which is key to getting rights for these children. Second, perm, time frame, do the AF, and then do the rights. The impact is really bad here. It just says that rights tend to trivialize, but you can do the affirmative and give the rights to these kids, and then if their rights are becoming trivialized, then you can just have the lawmakers refer to it as choices. Third, perm, do the affirmative and write rights down on the bill, but have the lawmakers use the word choices. Solves back for all its impacts because it means that in the eye of the public, we use the word choices, not the rights. So just write it on the bill, right? So that's the only way you can get the bill passed, and then use the word choices so you're getting the rights talk. Quote. Go to the AC. Extend the Smith 13 evidence as he rolled about that we have to first look at better solves for oppression in this round. As he's conceding, he thinks he links into this, but he doesn't because he focuses on this debate on talks about rights, not talk about oppression. The point of the Smith Guard, the point of reading the Smith Guard was that our debate would be about intimate partner violence and discussing that topic and getting more in depth and having education about that topic specifically. But he has refocused the entire debate to a rights talk, pick, and a counter plan. It means who does not solve back for Smith 13. You can extend that there's an independent reason to drop him because he is moving the focus away from the narrative I read at the topic. There's the ICANN 14 card and moving the topic into a debate that nobody wants to hear, nobody wants to have. Go to solvency evidence. He says this only talks about confederacy and privacy, confidentiality and privacy, but the BTC evidence specifically states that the use of the word rights is what gets the policy passed in the first place. The confidentiality, if he's reading the pick, it means he picks out of all the solvency in the affirmative, which means he has no solvency to back up himself. He doesn't access the BTC 08 cards, the blue 14 card, or the Parker-White evidence. And he can actually have people defend rights to themselves. The key to the Parker-White evidence is the reason why people are able to defend rights is because they use the terminology of rights. The empowerment of citizens to reject the state is by using the terminology of rights, not the terminology of choices. Rights is a specifically empowering rhetoric that allows people to reject the system. Saying you give them a choice just sounds like a compromise and nobody wants to have.
Can I see that evidence?
Which evidence? The BTC stuff?
Yeah, you keep referring to.
Sure.
I had 147.
So,
Is it this card?
so that's the first
BTC 08 or BTC 07?
BTC 0, so these are both BTC cards, right?
Yeah,
Sorry.
sorry, which one?
Both.
Both, okay.
Right, these are all reasons why in the status quo this is key. So we passed this legislation.
You only read the highlighted part?
But the articles themselves also point to the fact that this is the legislation that is being passed,
That's
right?
fine. Actually, can you have your computer here?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. Sorry. I mean, too close.
Yeah, no problem.
You made 3 perms?
Yeah.
Okay. Was one of the perms saying that you get to, you pass the plan just with the word choices in it instead of rights?
No, the perm, I think the perm you're referring to is you pass the plan, you use the word rights on the actual bill, which is key to getting the plan passed in the first place, and then have the lawmakers refer to it not as a right, but as a choice. So it solves back for all the impacts because if it's rights
Did the original AC say that we would do rights all the way through?
Well, the original AC said you would pass it as a right, not that people would say right.
Okay.
It didn't say that policymakers would use the word right, it said you would get it passed as a right. So you could write that down on the bill if you would like.
So, I'm just going to flash it to you. I have stuff. Sorry. Didn't mean to hurt your flash drive. This is just stuff that I'm going to read. Is angle EL or LE?
EL.
answers to angle.
See order?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Order is going to be the AC at the very top of the AC, and then going on to the counter. Are we ready?
Yeah. First, he extends the role of balancing and that we should solve for oppression. However, what he misunderstands is that I don't know if he knows what a pick is, but the pick does exactly the plan, so I solve for all the oppression that he does. The most important question of the debate is going to be whether the word rights is essential to his solvency for getting the plan passed. That's his argument. Second, he says they should drop me because I'm deterring away from the focus, but the internal link to this argument is saying that I deter focus because I am not acknowledging the fact that this is important, but I am acknowledging the fact that it is important because the next still does the plan. It simply doesn't use the word rights. Now, his internal link to this argument is not the word rights makes this argument important. I'm saying that it's simply the fact that we are acknowledging that people are suffering and pass something to help them. That is what is important. And I functionally do the same thing. So therefore, there's no reason to drop me because I didn't read the narrative. And also, that argument goes away because I acknowledge this being good. And three, he says the PTA evidence is saying is key. And the BDC evidence is saying specifically that the word rights is essential to solving and having the policymaker. However, he lies because if you can call the card after the round, the card actually never says the word rights in it. Control F that, baby. It doesn't actually say the word rights. And second, the pure fact that argument is not even saying that solvency advocates require it to be a right for it to be passed. So he's just straight up lying because he's desperate for answers, and that makes him look really bad. And fourth, he says that he's no solvency in the argument, so therefore that argument goes away and that analysis is gone. Now, even so, all I had to do is prove that there is a reason why rights is bad, and that outweighs the stuff of why rights would be good to solvency. Also, go on to Magnus evidence. I made an answer saying that this flows affirmative saying that we should talk about critical discussion. So this argument can also be cross-applied to his reason why you should drop me for deterring from the narrative, whatever the heck that means, because I also acknowledge that this oppression is bad. So that means that Magnus would agree with the right stock argument. So that acts as defense. Now, the AC is irrelevant for now. Now, on to the K. First, I'm going to go over his arguments. His first argument is that there's no reason we should support the Supreme Court because it's historically been wrong. But the argument here is saying that he gives the example of slavery, but slavery is functionally different because slavery was an abuse against people. But the argument is saying here that we should still help these people. We just shouldn't call it a right. And there's no reason why right is key beneficial to making sure that the affirmative plan passes. So this argument goes away. And second, he says that choice doesn't solve. My argument is not that choice has to solve. The argument is saying that rights is net worse, right? I'm saying that rights is bad. I'm not saying that choice is simply avoiding the negative effects of the word rights. So if I win the counterplan or the net benefit of why rights is bad, then this argument doesn't make any sense. And on the link evidence, on Glendon, he makes arguments saying this only talks about values, but he misunderstands what Glendon is talking about. The argument is saying that the notion of rights and expanding rights and giving people rights is what is the problem. He concedes in the cross-text that he expands the right, and he concedes by affirming the resolution, and he concedes by the plan text. They all use the word right. So there's a 100% strength on link. He's saying there's no sense of why we should not protect rights, but that dependent on the fact that he's winning the argument that rights is essential to solving for the AC, which he is losing because he straight up lied. So argument goes away. And next on the perm stuff. First on the do both. The critique is mutually exclusive with the affirmative. They have to defend the resolution, which means the right makes autonomous choices. They cannot sever out parts of the resolution and still defend it. The permutation severs the representation, defendant rights rhetoric, and the AC that criticizes for this rhetoric, allowing to sever out this rhetoric destroys all critiques and counterpoints because it makes it impossible for me to enforce the defender discourse. Extend my Glendon White cards. They say discourse is key, and one severs is illegitimate. One is not a test competition between plan and critique. It's a competition between the critique and itself. And two, severs makes the plan functionally conditional, allowing them to sever out the right to make autonomous choices. Makes it have a moving target, which is the equivalent of a conditionality. This undermines the stable negative ground, which makes fairness impossible. And three, severs destroys all negative arguments. The affirmative can change what they will defend, and after the AC has already gone, they can always avoid whatever negative arguments I run. Negative grounds keep the education because it rewards negative research into the literature. And four, reject the permutation. It is not a legitimate test of competition that the judge cannot vote for and reject the and cannot reject the critique on its basis. And five, reject the debater to their future abuse because damage is already done. Is the only way to restore a fair round. Also, specifically, now talking about the alt. Now, his only hope is now on the alternative perm. So first, he says that if you do the app and that white is not enough to prove a discourse, but I already explained why the right stock is bad. So let me explain why using the word rights is bad. The explanation is simply that when you use the word rights, you undermine key
rights in the Constitution. In this case, privacy and confidentiality, right? I'm making that argument. Now, the reason why that's bad is because it undermines the AC. That's the alternative evidence, saying that we turn the AC because he undermines discourse, and that makes people not want to pass the plan, or makes the plan not get followed because they use the word rights. And there's so many rights around that nobody wants to use it. Even if you think this is not a great argument, it's still an argument that he drops as saying why it's bad. And analysis is dropped, so extend that. Next, he says that he has to prove that rights is good, but that's an argument as to why the perms are not net better than just doing the counterplan, because the counterplan proves reasons of why there's a net a disadvantage to running the AC with the word rights. So the perm doesn't work. And next, he says there's no solvency to rights key, but that relies on the fact that he lied on the fact that the PC evidence says the rights is key. And next, on the second perm, he's saying that we should do the app and then do the K, but functionally this is wrong. So you can cross-apply the severance as illegitimate arguments, right? Because he's saying that we should do the app and then reverse it, but that's not his advocacy. In the one AC, he made explicit that we have to do rights. Also, this is contradictory to the fact that his argument is saying that we need the word rights to get it passed and make it effective. But then he says we should pass the plan and then change it to choices, which obviously is contradictory of his argument and the whole point of saying that rights is key to solvency. And on the perm, he says that we should do the app and pass it as a bill and then have policymakers do it. That argument makes no sense. Cross-apply the reasons why severance is illegitimate, and cross-apply the reasons I made on the second perm as why this is bad, because it's contradictory to the fact that he says rights is key to solvency, but then he says that we can get rid of the rights once the bill has been passed. And next on the alternative, he says, actually, let me just explain. He makes two arguments on the case saying that, let's say the word rights is bad, but Glenn is specifically making an examination of why this is bad. So extend the alternative to say that adults ought to be able to make medical choices for transforming rights that will protect people excluded from current society. That's net better. And extend the 5, the role of the ballot. You should evaluate the role of the ballot because discourse is key. And he's talking about why you should defend discourse and the questions of policy because that affects solvency of those arguments. That's the Glenn evidence, so you can extend that argument. And he makes the second argument saying that people not getting rights is benefit bad. But I'm not saying that it's not a question of rights. You assume that rights is necessarily good to protect people. I'm saying no. Legislation is important to protect people. Court decisions are important to protect people. The word rights is just a choice to use. And I'm saying that's net worse. None of the perms solve, so you vote nay. You had 52?
Yep, sorry. So, let's start off on the pick. Or sorry, so AC pick.
Where are you starting on these?
Top the AC. So the roll the ballot stuff.
Okay.
Are we good? Yep. Extend the Smith 13 argument. He's the rule about is to vote up whoever best solves repression. He says he links into this because he regards the IAF as a good thing, but he says a different way to focus to solve for it. My argument is not that he doesn't say that the IAF is a good thing, but that the focus of the debate has focused off of the narrative. He disregards the narrative of the 1814 evidence that we have to look to Tara and the experiences she's faced and how to solve for the violence of intimate partner, how to solve for intimate partner violence. He only centers the debate about rights discourse, about rights talk, not about actually interrogating the issue of intimate partner violence. But go down, even if you don't buy that argument, I think the DC evidence is pretty good here. It says that the reason why we solve why the affirmative is able to solve and pass these laws is because we implement them in the status quo system. That means we would use the status quo use of rights as rhetoric. It means that the only solvency is that the AC, the only solvency that this plan passes is that we use the word rights. ICPTC evidence that they advocate for passing this plan with use of the word rights. Because we pass in the status quo. Go to the pick. First at the top of the pick, once again, he misunderstands what his own pick says. Extend the arguments I made that he does not respond to this. He explains the Glendon card. He says the notion of expanding rights is bad. Once again, that's the argument I made, that he doesn't say, Glendon does not say that the word rights is bad. He says the notion of expanding any sorts of rights is the bad thing. First of all, this is a reprehensive argument. Once again, it says that expanding rights is a bad thing because it trivializes rights. So we shouldn't give the right to kids to seek refuge from inmate partner violence because it's a bad thing. It trivializes other rights. Doesn't make any sense. That's the reason why we shouldn't give people rights. Second, is not a discursive link. It's just a reason why we shouldn't give a lot of rights. It's non-unique because that means if we give a lot of choices to do things, it is the same thing as giving a lot of rights to do things because it's not centered around discourse. It's centered around what you actually do to the law. You can call for the card. It's not saying the word rights. It's any civil liberties. Clear here when he said like his own cards don't even use the word rights consistently. It uses civil liberties, rights. You can also look at the Archer card that specifically implicates that the reason why rights talk is bad is because lawmakers don't believe that kids should have the right to seek refuge against inmate partner violence. Like, they shouldn't have rights. Right? This is really clear. His arguments are just arguments why policymakers don't believe that certain people ought to have rights, or that granting a ton of rights just trivializes rights for certain people. Not that the use of the word rights is bad. Either way, across the play, the Parker evidence at EAC are super damning for it because it says that the reason why people are able to resist the impositions of the government is by use of the word rights and by discourse of rights and by campaigning for them. This is a concession. I made this argument at the end of the 1AR that he's conceding to. Means even if you think that rights is bad in the void, the use of the word rights is bad. It's the only thing to actually solve back to repression. It's try or die for the affirmative. If he says rights are worse, he doesn't have any solvency for why he's able to implement legislation to stop inmate partner violence by use of the word choices, because legislation is created with the use of the word rights, but it's try or die, because if he has no solvency, it means that we have to weigh the Shepherd whose evidence, the notion that the AF may pass certain rights versus the notion that the neg doesn't pass any rights whatsoever. So even if the impact of the EU by the impact of the pick, he can't pass any policy that helps inmate partner violence. Also, extend the perm, kick the first perm. That's not a reason to drop me. It's just a reason to drop the argument. Extend the second perm that you can write law that you can write the rights on the bill. That wasn't part of the plan.